Good afternoon everybody, it's Brett here, Lionheart84. Now finally, with this lockdown, it's been hard to buy any tomato plants or grow bags, and I finally yesterday managed to get my hands both on some tomato plants and some grow bags. These are called tomato planters, but we call them grow bags as well. And what interested me was these are obviously very commonly used in the UK. Like, it's a pre-prepared bag that basically has a special mix of composting. But I've been looking online in America, and it looks to me as if these aren't something that is readily available in America at all. And obviously the idea is you buy them, you cut little holes in the top where you can see the lines here, and then you take your tomato plant, and the standard way of doing it is take it out of that little pot and plant it in there. And on a bag this size you can get 3 tomato plants in it, and obviously you push a cane into the bag, and that allows you to grow them in fresh compost each year, so you don't get a build-up of diseases which you might in a greenhouse or in a border where you're growing tomatoes year after year after year. But as I said, I've been looking online, and I looked on American Amazon and eBay and some other websites, and I'm sure my American watchers will correct me, but I haven't been able to see these pre-prepared planting bags sold in America. If you look up grow bags there, you get a big fabric type pot that you fill with your own compost and then grow the plants in there, but these actually come ready made. Now, the system I use for mine, and I'll obviously do a second part to this video, is I've got the sort of roughly 6-inch pots that I cut the bottoms out of. And what I like to do with my grow bags, because I don't know if you can see, but they're not actually that deep, they're only about 3 or 4 inches deep, and these hold 50 litres, which is just over 10 UK gallons. So I guess 50 litres is probably about 12 US gallons, but they haven't got that, although the soil spreads out nicely in them, they haven't got much depth. So what I like to do is cut a hole in the top of the planter about the size of the pot, and I just sink the pot a little bit into it, and then I fill this ring. This used to be, in the old days, this used to be called ring culture in the UK, and it was commonly done in the greenhouses to it had a number of benefits which I'll go through, but basically the ring sits in the top of the planter, and then you fill that up with more fresh compost, and you plant the tomato plant straight into the ring. Now that has a number of benefits as far as I'm concerned. Firstly, it obviously gives you a much greater depth of soil. So if you sink the tomato plant nice and deep into the soil, you get a lot more roots form up the stem. Secondly, it makes it much harder for things like the bad guys, the slugs and the snails, to not only do they have to climb onto the bag, they have to climb up the side of the planter to get into the plant. So it does reduce the problem you have with snails. And also from a point of watering, obviously if you just spray your water onto the top of the bag here, a large amount of the water tends to sort of shoot off the side of the bag instead of going where you want it. Whereas if you're watering into this pot on the top, the water and the food is being directed straight onto the tomato plant. So that's why I like to use the rings. Gives me a lot of extra depth of soil on top of the planter for the tomato plants, so they get a bit of root system going. It also makes it easier when you push the cane in. The cane tends to be more stable as well, but in my case I don't just push the cane into the top of the bag, I push it all the way through and into the ground underneath, which means it's nice and stable. But anyway, this is just the first part of the video. I'm going to do the planting tomorrow, which will be a Sunday. It's Saturday as I'm filming this. So when you watch the video, you'll watch both parts, and you'll see how I've cut a hole into the top of the planter, sunk this pot in about 1 inch so it's stable, and then these plants will be planted into those rings. I've got plenty of rings to do the 2 planters. I'm only doing 2 this year because it's quite late in the season, and I didn't have much luck with cucumbers or my eggplants last year. They didn't crop very well, so I've just decided to buy some tomatoes this year, and I bought 6 different varieties, which I'll go through tomorrow when I've planted them. And you'll see that in the second part of the video, which will follow in a short while. Okay, so this is the next stage now. You can see all I've done is marked a hole with a marker pen and a bottom of one of these ring pots. Obviously, as I showed you before, these are pots where I simply trimmed out the bottom of them. And then the pot just sits on the surface, or perhaps buried 1/2 inch into the surface. And then you put your cane in. And in a minute I'll put the tomato plants in and show the finished planter. Okay, so here's the finished plants now. I forgot that I paused the video. I've got 2 or 3 specialist tomatoes and 2 or 3 really normal ones. That's a Beef Master. This is a bog standard old fashioned English variety money maker, very traditional. I've got a Roma plum tomato there. And if I walk over to the other planter, because I bought 2 grow bags. This one, I've got a Sun Gold cherry tomato. Alicante, which is another old fashioned make. And a Gardener's Delight, which is also another traditional tomato, all good for salads or cooking. Now, I don't have any real problems getting enough water into these pots to keep the plants wet, but if you were in a dry climate and you felt you weren't getting enough water to the top of the pots, you can make watering holes here and push tubes in, like an empty pipe or something, and use that as a watering tube to actually get the water down into the bag if you feel the bag's too dry. I said I haven't really had a problem here. I can normally get enough water into the pots at the top to get down into the bag, and you don't want them too saturated inside, obviously, because the roots will rot. Anyway, that's a traditional way of growing tomatoes in the UK, in what we call grow bags or tomato planters. As I said, I haven't seen them featured in America. I'm assuming they are available, but I haven't seen them in anyone's videos there, and I couldn't find any for sale when I looked online at Amazon, so perhaps they're not something that's common to other countries. Perfect if, like me, you haven't got any in-ground space to plant things like tomatoes. I'm not doing any cucumbers this year, or eggplants, or peppers, because we had a very cold June last year, and to be honest, the crops were a complete disaster outside. It wasn't worth growing them, so as tomatoes are more reliable in our climate, I've decided just to stick to 6 tomato plants this year. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Welcome to like the video, share it if you think anyone else will be interested in growing tomatoes in bags, and please subscribe to my channel, and obviously hit the bell if you'd like to get notifications about future videos and see how these tomatoes do during the course of the summer. Catch up with everybody soon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Brett out.